Welcome to Caserta's Data Intelligence Series. In this series, we talk about what it takes to go from a good data and analytics leader to a great one. We'll share with you the tools and methodologies you need to build better, faster, and more robust, as well as strategies and frameworks to generate more revenue and grow your business. Featuring some very special guests and experts to inspire you and give you advice and direction on your data journey. And now, introducing your host, Caserta Data and Analytics Evangelist and VP Marketing, Remy Rosenbaum.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode in Caserta's Data Intelligence web series. And today we're going to talk about the elusive Customer 360 view. And this is an interesting one because this is really where marketing and IT intersect and really depend on one another to crack the elusive Customer 360. And it's elusive, you'll find out soon, because the marketplace is literally saturated with data sources about your customer. How do you stitch them together? How do you know it's the same customer across each touch point? How do you make sense of this journey and turn it into one single source of truth? It's a lot of questions. So to answer them, I have brought on a very special guest today, Aileen Blass. Aileen is a seasoned data strategist with Caserta and has spent much of her career collaborating with business leaders to develop data strategies that support business objectives. Her leadership has helped multiple clients leverage their existing data investments to solve complex problems like Customer 360 and usher in new levels of data competency and literacy across the organizations she supports. So thank you, Aileen, for joining us today. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, a little bit about Caserta. So Caserta is a consulting company which helps leaders like you make sense of their data. We do data strategy, architecture, and especially advanced implementation of those things we recommend. And that can be about Customer 360 or building a data warehouse or data pipelines or data quality or any number of data and analytics projects that we're laser focused on. If you have any questions about today's webinar and things that you would like to implement in your firm, please reach out to me or Aileen, and we'll give you her email address at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them on the questions panel on the right in GoToWebinar. All right, let's get started. Aileen, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Remy. Thanks for having me here today. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. What I wanted to walk through today is talking about this Customer 360 view and some ideas for how you can get there. And then most importantly, how do you get the benefits that you should have from all that great data? So this presentation today, we're going to talk for probably 30 minutes or so, is really the culmination of 20 plus years of consulting experience. So what I did was, Remy, is I interviewed my colleagues here at Caserta and got a lot of the great war stories and some of the implementation do's and don'ts from them. So this really presentation today is representing much of what was learned across the team here at Caserta. So we all know we're looking at this Customer 360, this challenge. How do I get this Customer 360 view of everything I need to know about my customer? So it's pretty clear, I think most people know, you need this complete view of your customer. But why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Things have changed. And this, I know you can't see it, this is sort of that shock value. This is a graphic that came from a group called chiefmartech.com. They put this together every year. This shows over 7,000 vendors in the MarTech stack that have the potential to create, store, share, or use data about your customers. So something this size, it's no wonder the 360 view has gotten so complicated. There are thousands and thousands of ways that an organization can find information about their vendors. So this represents, this diagram, about 7,000 or so, and there are actually more than 8,000 vendors. And the group that pulled this together knew there were more, but there were so many. This is really what they could fit on here and had all the research for. So pretty impressive stack out there. So this 360 challenge, what is the hard part for this? So we're going to talk through a couple points today and then really how to get around them. So trying to get that complete view, your customer is interacting in more and more places and more than ever before, all over the internet, social media, structured data, unstructured data, on your website, brick and mortar stores, e-commerce, mobile apps. Data is coming from all over the place, online, offline. And you also have this anonymous data. So people you don't even know yet are your customers, but become your customers. All these data points are coming out there. How do you pull them all together and make sense of them? That's what a 360, the view, is trying to accomplish. And then you also have, in most companies, the MarTech stack has grown quite a bit over the last few years. And for those of you in the IT world who are not familiar with that term, MarTech obviously stands for marketing technology. And it's been a hugely increasing piece of the industry over the last 10 years or so. Again, we saw that visual of 8,000 vendors out there. It's enormous. And in most companies, they have more vendors in their MarTech stack now, significantly more than they did a few years ago. So you have more places where the data is being created, and you have more channels that want to use that data. Then the other big challenge is it can't stand alone. Marketing is collecting data about the customers, but there's more people in the company that need that same data available to them. And so it's important that as we get this customer 360 view, it looks the same whether you're a marketing person looking at it or you're someone in product development or someone in finance. They have that same view of the customer. Tricky stuff to do. Another thing that's changing is the privacy world. So more and more regulations are coming out. It's getting harder and harder to follow those rules. And the more vendors that have your consumer data, the more places you've got to make sure you're protecting that consumer data, that you're able to communicate what data you have there, and you're able to show that you can delete it when requested by a consumer. So gotten more and more complicated. Then data in general, most companies have pretty tight controls. Now the data is often moving in and out of the cloud, off-prem and back on-prem, making sure that data is secure. We all know what happens when data hacks happen, so that those tight controls about just moving information and system access in general complicate this drive. And really the hardest part is all those things come together, and marketing needs this now. So can't be a 12, 18-month project. This has got to be in a couple of months. If they've got this great 360 view of their clients, they can start using it in the marketing world. So that's the challenge. So now we're going to talk about how do we walk through that. So one of the things we've seen at Caserta is there are a lot of vendors, like I said, out in the MarTech stack. One piece that we have found many organizations are missing is what's called a customer data platform. So I'm going to hold on while I explain what this is, but I want you to just look at the first two words of this, customer data. So for the first time in a MarTech stack, this area of technology is about customer data. It's not about customer relationship. It's not about a data management platform. It's customer data. So the name itself gives me a lot of comfort in what we're trying to accomplish here, because it's all about the data generated about customers. Now, currently in the marketplace, there are less than 100 vendors that have customer data as their core pure play product. So pretty small marketplace. Most of them are relatively new. There's some young upstarts that are just phenomenal out there. So there's a good stack that are worthy of looking at. And what's interesting is that in the marketplace today, Gartner did this actually just about 2 years ago. They surveyed several hundred marketing leaders, and 50% of them, almost 50% of them, thought they already had a customer data platform in place. Turns out less than 20% do. So there's a misperception out there about what a customer data platform is. So today we're going to talk about really what is it, where does it fit into your marketplace, and why is it so important in helping you get to this 360 view. So defined, I pulled two things from some quality vendors that are out there. Gartner says that it's a customer data platform, it's a marketing system. That's very important. This is a marketing tool. So IT is going to help in this process, but this is a marketing tool. It's a marketing system just to get customer data for modeling, optimizing campaigns in the marketing world. Then you have another quote here that it's a SaaS platform. The reason that's on here, interestingly enough, most of the CDP vendors out there, customer data platform vendors, are working in a cloud or hosted environment. They are not for on-prem, and that's very important. And we'll get into a little bit about why that exists like that today. But they go into, so this definition goes into a lot about you pulling offline, online data, pulling it together, segmenting, creating customer segments, sharing it with marketing vendors. And so what we tried to do was really bring it all down to kind of brass tacks. A CDP, a customer data platform, should do three main things for you. Collect all that customer data. So remember, it's a customer data platform. Collect that customer data, whether they're existing known customers to you today or they're anonymous. You want to know who they are because those anonymous customers, as you know, sooner or later they flip and you know who they are. So you want to have that history of their transactions and interactions with you when that flip occurs. Secondly, you want to unify it, stitch it, use whatever word you like, pull it all together. Pull that online profile and the offline profile, the social media interaction, all into one view of that one customer, stitch it all together. In that process, we also recommend that you do some standardization, and you'll find most of the vendors do this as well. So it's deciding what your address format looks like and doing those basic standardizations that help pull together and make that data more shareable. That all happens in that kind of second tier here. The third part is activate it. The whole reason you're pulling all this together and creating this view is to do something with it. So marketing has an opportunity to figure out what exactly they would do with this great customer profile, but you know a lot of it already. You want to get it out and improve your campaigns, get it out to your marketing vendors and your channels, share the data. And there's another part to this, which we will also get into, which is share it internally. Who else in your organization besides marketing would benefit from this unified view of your customer? So if you keep that in mind, a customer data platform is these three main things, brings it all together, makes a single view, and then activates it so you can share it and use it. And I read somewhere, looking at some of these pieces, someone had asked the question of a really great CDP vendor that I have worked with in the past, what's your superpower? Why do we need this? And what most of these vendors, I think, will answer, and certainly the one that I've worked with, is that it enables that customer segmentation process to happen by marketing individuals who are not hardcore data analysts quickly. It's a fast turnaround from pulling all that data together, unified view of a customer, and then someone from marketing can get in and quickly and nimbly make customer segmentations. That's their superpower. It's this fast customer segmentation process using data that came in minutes ago, near real time. It's not from last week. And the other big piece that I would say, the second superpower, in my opinion, it's so critical, is a customer data platform has to be extensible. And what I mean by that, that's on the technology side, right? So marketing, you guys need to do your customer segmentation. IT, you need to know this platform can build out over time because that data volume is growing exponentially. You're gonna have more vendors sending you data, more that want it. You need to have a really extensible database that can hold this change in the volume. So those are the three main pieces, and you'll see those are going to come up again. So where do you get a CDP? Three basic ways for any new technology. There's the classic buy, build. Do I buy one? Do I build one? I've added a third option here, which is the extend piece. So I want to walk through kind of the benefits that I see of each of these areas. You can build. You can build a customer data platform that pulls data in from your marketing vendors, unifies it, runs some algorithms, finds the group matches, and then can share it out. And at Caserta, we've done this before. We've had clients who needed some fairly advanced algorithms to unify their customer data. And they were just the right niche use case based on the number of MarTech vendors they had and their specific use cases for how they're using this. And so what was important to that client was that we could quickly build this database for them. This is not a multi-year event. In a matter of months, they go from having a fairly scattered view of their consumer to a unified view where the rules were clear, marketing and IT understood what kind of rules and algorithms were in place to create this unified view, and it was available for marketing to start using quickly. So there's the build. There are, I think, fewer opportunities for a pure play build than there are the other two. You can extend. So option number 2 is extend. Is take one of your existing vendors in your MarTech who has recently built a CDP module or has another offering that they're putting out there. This is one you need to be cautious with. So obviously, anytime you're expanding a footprint of a vendor, you want to know that this is a good vendor partner for you. So first and foremost, are they good to work with? And the second piece to really look at here is if you're using an existing MarTech vendor who's creating an add-on module for CDP, you've got to make sure that it's kind of born in the cloud, that it has all of the new technology pieces that a brand new tool would have in place, so that you're not banking on old school batch processing, second day available data. It's got to be that near real time, and it's got to be taking advantage of a lot of the modern technologies from an AI and machine learning capability. Your third option, which I think is the most flexible, is a buy. There are vendors out there, 100 or so, depending on how you count them, that are closer to pure play. This is what they do. They were born in the cloud. They are only operate in the cloud or in a hosted environment. They're primarily young companies with newer products. And by young, I mean several years old. Some are brand new as well. But they were designed to work in this new world. They're designed to work with that large view of the 7,000 different vendors. They can quickly pull together data from hundreds of those vendors, create that synchronized view, and share it outbound. They're able to handle large volumes of data coming through. They can handle the ML and the machine learning and the AI techniques that are far beyond the traditional fuzzy logic that many of us have been exposed to, like in an MDM environment where you have fuzzy logic. They go way past that, much more sophisticated. So you need people who understand that technology, that world. And they also are designed to handle, from an IT perspective, structured data and unstructured data. So unstructured data could be anything from voice, chatbots. It could be any kind of data that doesn't come across in a scripted way. And that's a lot of the social media that's out there today. A lot of our vendors are collecting unstructured data. And you need a tool that can pull that unstructured data into some semblance of structure and link it to a consumer. So, and also a lot of these that are out there have these pre-built connectors, either to a data marketplace or to individual key vendors. So like I said, at Casterra, we've got experience working with building for some of our clients in the past. And then we also have experience working with some of these great vendors that are out there. We help bridge that gap between the CDP solution and the enterprise solution. And we'll talk about it because it gets a little complicated to get one of these in place if you don't think about all the options and pitfalls up ahead. So we'll talk through a couple of those. So what's happened? Where did CDP even come from? 2013, the term was first coined, and it has exploded ever since. So I think that was maybe 7 years ago. And these enterprise marketing systems that are out there today have started to try to catch up and build their own CDPs, but it's still brand new. So that's why there's a lot of them are still in play. You may see them on the product roadmaps for some of these other MarTech vendors. And then what else has happened in the marketplace? We talked about this. We went from about 150 MarTech vendors 10 years ago to about 8,000 today. That is incredible explosion. So in addition to all these new vendors, we all know what happens then one starts to buy another, they're merging. There's a continual shift in those vendors. So it's pretty active out there, and there's a lot of great solutions from a MarTech perspective that are generating and capturing this consumer data. Then what else has happened? You've got omni-channel customers. It's not just the guy that walks in the door. It's not just the phone call that's received from somebody who used their customer, their CRM and made a phone call. Your omni-channel customers are everywhere. They've got data points coming in from all over the internet, as well as in brick and mortar stores, phone calls up to customer service. It's from all over the place. So that's happened out in the marketplace as well. And the last part is personalization. What's happened in the last few years is customers, we expect our online vendor, our online interactions to have some understanding of who we are, when the last time was we were there, what we left in the market basketplace, whatever it may be. But there's an expectation from a consumer perspective that my interactions are going to be more personalized than ever before. And I also expect you to protect my personal data and keep it in a secure place and delete it if I ask. So it's a double-edged sword. I want you to know everything about me, but not make it available to anybody else. So it makes the world just a little more complex for us. And in the same time, over the last few years, what's happened at your company, most likely, you've got a lot more vendors. So IT, you may not even know this, that your marketing group has been making contracts with more and more MarTech vendors because they're single purpose. They're handling marketing activities, and largely they're automated and self-sufficient. And so IT isn't actually needed in many of those conversations. Marketing can just get down to business with their vendor, make things happen. But there are more of those vendors out there than you may be even aware of. in your market, in your customer company today. And these are exclusively for marketing. So this is a big point. IT hasn't had to be involved in a lot of the marketing technology that's occurred over the last several years, but that is starting to shift. And so IT has to do a little bit of catching up and understanding a little bit more about that marketing, MarTech space, and understanding what some of those vendors do. And most importantly, IT's got to understand what marketing is driving towards. And at the same time, the marketing team has an opportunity now to understand how their marketing view and technology use of the last several years has been terrific, fantastic, fixed a lot of problems. But now this need for this consumer data from all over the place, marketing's going to need a little bit more of IT involvement in there. And so this is that place where the two worlds are going to start to combine. And I want to say combine and not collide, because there's an opportunity for marketing and IT to work really well together and make things happen fast. So what else has happened? Almost every mid to large size company in at least the Northern Hemisphere has a digital transformation program in place. And if they didn't before the pandemic came, they certainly do now. So this digital transformation, for most companies, your customer lies at the center of that. And so having a database that has all of your consumer data unified, stitched together, and it's one single source of truth is critical to a successful digital transformation program. So chances are there's a lot more people looking for this kind of solution outside of marketing than ever before. Costs, we all know, it costs more and more each year to find a new customer. So the best thing you can do is maximize on the ones you already have. So that becomes, that won't change. It's going to keep growing that way. To get a new customer will always cost more. The last bit, what's happened internally, you have a ton of data. You've got data from your transactional systems, you've got data out of finance, and you have data from more and more places. And the trick is getting the right data to the right people so they can make sense of it and find some insights and make some better decisions. And that's what a customer data platform can do if it's implemented correctly. So the reason I bring this up, CRM, is there are a lot of people who don't yet understand the difference between a CRM and a CDP. So a CRM, a customer relationship management system, phenomenal, right? There's a couple big names out there. Everybody knows them. Most people have one, and they've been around for a long time. And they were built to manage that relationship between your customer and your relation and the company. And they place an emphasis on generating leads. They're great at managing a sales funnel, tracking interactions, time and place. They're fantastic, and they do a lot of good for a lot of companies and keep their sales team focused on goals. Perfect place. They are not a CDP, and they're very different for a couple of reasons. One, I've talked about this, the CDP born in the cloud. It's meant for this extensible database that grows and grows and grows over time. The CDPs are built to handle streaming data that comes through, and CRMs are typically, we're typically built to handle batch transactions, so big pieces coming through on scheduled timeframes. CDPs are handling that streaming because that's how the world's working today. It's 2020, data just keeps streaming through from multiple sources, and they're built to handle that. They're great at this unstructured data piece again, so social media interactions are a great example of that. And they can handle large volumes of data. So CRM has some capability that overlaps with the CDP, but is somewhat limited. So a CDP really has that customer data focus. So hopefully that is clear and that they're not the same thing, and they do complement each other. It's not a replacement. All right, so what should your CDP do for you? If you get one, what should it do? I'm gonna go back to my definition, 3 main things. Collect your data, right? Maximizing the flexibility for you to add new vendors. There's 8,000 of them out there. If you want a new MarTech vendor, you should be able to quickly make that switch or that addition, add them in so we can have more data coming in. You should be collecting anonymous data. Second part, unify, stitch it, pull it together. Are you using standard data formats that work across the organization? Typically, that's a good approach for most companies, that they have some kind of alignment between their standardization between a larger ecosystem and their marketing CDP. Are your algorithms, do they make sense? Do you understand them? So Your CDP should have clear algorithms for how they're pulling their customers together that are understood, written in business terms for marketing to grasp and to make changes to as they go along and they learn from it. I would also expect most of your CDPs have some machine learning and AI portions to them, and they should be making recommendations for making changes to those algorithms as well. And then activate. So again, getting it out there, doing your customer segmentation. But all these three pieces only make sense if you have a marketing use case for it. So if you are thinking some of this is resonating, maybe this is what we need, this is the missing piece to know who my customers really are, fully stitched together, you should be able to build a use case for it. These typically, the first ones I've seen a couple times that we've seen here at Casterra are use cases that are built just for marketing with an ROI around their campaigns. So whether it's an email campaign, I think it was one of the typical ones, or just some kind of ad sharing campaigns, knowing that you have the right customer segment and you're sending those out to just the targeted right people is usually a quick ROI. I mean, really quick ROI for many people, that's single focus. And then you should also, as you're building out that marketing use case or use cases, hopefully many of them, who else in the organization could benefit from having this data? Does it belong in your customer service tool? Does it belong in your CRM? Are there people across working through an ERP or in product development that could use this data? Certainly it belongs in a data analytics platform. But those are your key reasons why you would move to a CDP. So it's not to collect, unify, and activate your data. It's to meet a business purpose. What are you trying to solve? What are you trying to make better? How are you trying to save money? How are you trying to make more money? Start there, and then you'll quickly see, I think many of you, that having that unified view of your customer will contribute to it. So that's functionally what you want to do. If you talk to most vendors, you'll get a diagram, a high-level diagram, something like this, that shows on your left-hand side, customer interactions, all the different places that data can be created by your customer, collected or aggregated. So fit in any vendor you want over there, any approach, any way that you collect consumer data today or wish you could, but you know it's out there. Make that stack as long as you want. Then your CDP platform sits in the middle. What's beautiful about this is it's not a black box. So it's an easy access for marketing to understand what's happening, and that's critical. And then your customer data platform can share this data with as many channels, systems as you want on the right-hand side. So that's your basic in isolation, taking everything you possibly can, put it in the middle, unify it, put it together, create your segmentation, and then flip it all out to all your marketing channels. That's the basic piece. The challenge is no one has this isolated view exclusively. So almost every organization already has a large ecosystem in place, and this customer data platform in all of its movement of data, unification of data, standardization, that has to fit into the broader system without overcomplicating things. So architecturally, this is the hard part of CDP. Most of you out there from a marketing perspective can already think of 4 use cases, and you could probably build out an ROI in a couple of days with a little help from some finance or an analyst, build out a really strong ROI, and we see really good ROIs that are met in several months. That's the easy part. The hard part now, marketing, is how do you get this cool concept to fit into your organization and make it work broadly in this architecture view. So IT, this is where IT comes in. This is where you need a trusted advisor, someone who's that neutral party that can help you figure out how do you take this born in the cloud cool new thing and make it work into a broader system quickly, right? Don't ever forget that quickly part. Marketing always has a summer campaign that's coming up. It's the winter piece is coming up. There's always a quick deadline coming, business imperative they've got to meet. So where does it fit in? In this world, these are some pieces for consideration, right? You got to get data from all your sources. That's pretty quick. Your updates near real time. It's 2020, we're streaming data. So fits into a place where you can have data streaming. And IT will understand some of the places where they know data coming in, it's coming in through batch, where it can come in stream. So those need to be considered because the CDP's got to handle that near real time. then you've got to have some level of consistency. So it's great. This is a marketing solution and we have this view. But if I have a single view of my customer in marketing, will someone in another department have a different single view of the customer? Do I have multiple versions of the truth? Do I have several golden records? Probably not a good idea. So how do I get this CDP in where I have consistency across my organization? We're sharing data, so internally and externally. So making sure when a CDP is kind of pulled into your organization that it has the right hooks to get that data to other internal sources, has the right hooks to make sure that data integrity and quality are being maintained, has the right hooks to make sure you're complying with security protocols and CCPA and GDPR and all the data privacy pieces that you need to handle. And then the last part of where it fits in is something of this size and magnitude that will be used across the organization, all this unified consumer data. You need to make sure you've got IT handling the monitoring services on this and supporting the data movement. Data is moving in a lot of ways to make the CDP happen. It's all coming in and it's going back out to multiple places. You've got to make sure as an organization that there's a group in charge of making sure that data moves on a regular basis. They have monitoring services, so things are proactive. So you don't have that question of, is this really my full view or is this my full view, except I'm missing some parts. So having IT engaged to support this data movement is really, really critical. So let's go back then. So picture-wise, where does it fit in? Here you are, customer data platform on the left-hand side. Then you've got all these enterprise pieces. And this is what I was referring to. How does this fit into my organization? I've got a customer service platform. I've got a CRM. I've got MDM. I've got a data warehouse. I've got a data analytics platform. I've got another BI tool, product development. How do I get all of that working? And then all the infrastructure. So who's deciding what kind of tools we're using to move the data? Is it moving into our cloud or out of our cloud? It gets pretty complicated. And so IT, you'll recognize these. Almost every organization has some kind of an enterprise data platform. You already have a plan for internal data moving, how it lands, gets pulled together, data warehouses, data marts, here I'm storing it, moving it. All that fits in, but then you still have the CDP. It's got to plop in there, and it's not a quick drop in to one of these environments. You don't just drop a database in somewhere and make it work the way marketing needs it to, because marketing needs this data to move at near real time. So as it's happening, streaming in, and they need it available to them to start working on campaigns and keep switching things around. So it's got to move in sync with the rest of the organization, but quicker than the rest of the organization is running today. So it's a bit of a conundrum. At Caserta, we've been able to work with some clients to help them figure out where these new tools can fit into their environment. How do they rework their enterprise data platform in the most non-invasive way to meet the marketing demands that are needed, and yet make sure that they're maintaining all of the IT standards and protocols that need to be in place to keep the data secure and the company systems all secure? Not an easy piece. So if you look then, as you try to get this CDP in, there are some big questions that I can't tell you the answers to all of these today, but these are the big pieces you've got to consider. And this is where having a trusted advisor comes into play. A neutral party is really important. Marketing, you've got some great MarTech vendors out there, some really good relationships with those companies, but they don't know your infrastructure, they don't know your IT ecosystem, as well as someone in IT. So they're going to have a perspective that's different from the IT perspective. You really need to make sure you're bridging both sides of that you're addressing all of the marketing criticality pieces that are needed and the speed with the need to secure and have it fit into a broader ecosystem. So one of the big questions you've got to answer up front is, are we going to buy one, build one, or do we have an existing vendor that we trust and we're willing to expand our footprint and move forward on? Then next, this is going to be great, amazing data you'll have available about your consumers. If you just go with the diagram that comes from a CDP vendor, you're dead ending that data. It's ending in your marketing channels. It's meeting a marketing business need, and you're leaving out the rest of the company. This is an amazing opportunity to do something big for your company that supports that digital transformation program, for example. So how do you make sure this data doesn't end up as a data silo that's not dead ending anywhere and is available all the places it needs to be? And then it's that synchronization. So it's great, your data's out there. Does it match? Should it match? So what happens in your analytics platform? Does your view of the customer from CDP look different from the view of your customer from your data warehouse? Probably not a good idea. So how do you make sure that synchronization stays in place without having redundant technologies? Big questions. Data architects are great at this kind of thing, solution architects. And then, so more of the same, how does this fit into the warehouse? Does the data come in to the warehouse? Does the data warehouse feed my CDP? How does it get to my analytics platform? What about MDM? I have a master data management tool in place. Do we still need that? Does this circumvent it? Does it supersede it? Does it happen before it? All big questions. And these are pieces that require real thought leadership. People have done it before. You need thought leaders. So whether you've got a great chief data architect, maybe a chief marketing officer and chief data officer, pull them together, because you need to make sure you've got that view of the marketing need, the IT need, and then the big company perspective. How am I meeting all of this? So again, Caserta, one of the things we're really good at is being that trusted advisor with our clients and helping to find answers to those that are meeting what marketing needs. You're getting that ROI fast and furious. And then you've got accurate data across the enterprise that is secure and meets all the regulations that are required out there. It's not an easy ask, but it's really, really important as you work to get this fit in. So I'm going to leave us on this slide here. These are, again, imperatives, and I can't stress enough the criticality of figuring out what are your use cases, what are you doing from a marketing perspective, trying to accomplish, what's the business need? Start there. And then you've got to work with a team that represents not just marketing, but also IT, and hopefully someone in the broader business perspective, so that chief data officer is often a really great opportunity. What are you doing with this data, and how do you make it so valuable to the rest of your organization? How do I get it out there? How do I get this in place without disrupting the data ecosystem that already exists, and make it kind of fit in there smoothly? How do I make sure this data moves quickly from transaction to happening on the internet and is available for market segmentation? Quickly, does it have to drop in my lake first, or does it go straight to the CDP? Do I have to bifurcate it and go to the lake and the CDP? All big questions, but making sure from a marketing perspective, you know what you want to accomplish. Bigger picture company, what do you want to accomplish? And then working with someone who understands the technology and these vendors and the business need, and pull it together. Because the best part about something like a CDP, and I saw it firsthand with a really great vendor, you can do this in 4 months. In 4 months, you can go from signing a contract to having customer segments and changing the way you're running your campaigns with confidence. It's an easy, big win, a fast ROI that keeps extending from there. If you do it right up front, don't leave those opportunities at the table. You don't want to get it in place and then find out you got to backtrack because your privacy and security rules aren't being met. Do it all up front, get that fast win, and then keep building from there. And you can have a really amazing view of your customers in no time. So Remy, that's going to take us through the big picture CDP. This is what's so important for people to think about. Hopefully those questions at the end make them really ponder where does this fit into their environment, because it's a tough question, and every customer, every client out there is going to have a unique answer to that. It's not easy, but it's super fun and super beneficial.
All right, Aileen, that was excellent. Thank you so much for the presentation. Now we're going to turn it over to Q&A. So again, if anyone has any questions, please ask them in the questions panel on the right, and we will get to your question. So the first question, Aileen, is we have a customer data platform that we had implemented about 2 years ago. It is rigid and we cannot add any new data sources easily. What is the easiest way to go about doing that so we can continue to add new sources?
All right, great question. So Remy, that's kind of a critical piece on the CDP, is being able to add those new vendors quickly. So there's only 2 reasons why that's not working well. One is you picked one of the few CDP vendors who just really struggle at this, or two, you're just misunderstanding something. And I would venture to guess for most clients, it's number two. Get back in with that vendor or work with someone from an IT perspective and figure that out, because that ability to switch out to a new MarTech vendor is really important and it shouldn't be hard. So that's one, if I could see what they were looking at, I could probably help them out a little bit. It's not tough. And if it really truly is tough, go back to your vendor and ask them to help you out then, because it shouldn't be.
That's a good answer. Our next question. We have toyed and talked about doing a CDP internally, but there is no owner of this. I'm on the IT side, but this is a marketing activity. Who should be the natural owner of it, in your opinion?
Oh, fantastic question. So one, this isn't a marketing or an IT thing. That's part of the conundrum here. It's a marketing vendor that's going to span across your entire IT ecosystem to one way or another. So who should be in charge? If you're lucky enough to have a chief data officer, that person should be your sponsor. I've worked in a couple places where the chief data officer is hugely influential, and they're able to help make sure that the marketing team knows and builds their business case, and they look at the broader organization. What else can they do? And that perspective, Remy, a chief data officer that can help take that marketing business case and ROI and extend it to the rest of the company. That's the power in this tool, because you get it implemented, you get that quick ROI, and you keep going. And it's just gravy at that point. It just gets better and better over time. So as chief data officer, if you have it, if not, you need a really strong neutral party. So either an outside consultant who can bridge that gap is a great way to go. I know we've done that at Caserta multiple times, managing that gap between business and IT, and bridging that knowledge gap, really what it is, and pulling those teams together. Because it requires both sides of the fence for sure.
Sure. I mean, that's such a strong case for the office of the CDP in general, to the CDO, I'm sorry, in general, to raise that level. And here's our final question. And if anyone has any further questions, please, again, ask them the questions panel or email me to remy@caserta.com or to Aileen. Her email is up here, aileen.blast@caserta.com. The last question is, you said that it takes about 4 months for quick wins with a data vendor. How would Caserta come into play here? Would you recommend which data vendor to use? What would the process look like, and how long would that take? Okay,
great question. So Remy, that 4 months that I gave you was from the time a vendor was selected until marketing had changed the way they were running their customer segmentation and changed their campaign. So that's the full design all the way out to complete utilization. Picking the vendor is not a long process. So there are, and this is where Caserta could certainly help. So understanding what a client's trying to accomplish from a marketing perspective is one small piece. The biggest challenge in picking your CDP vendor is making sure they can fit in from a technology perspective into the existing ecosystem so that you can move quickly. If you have a CDP vendor that has a lot of conflicting technologies with your existing ecosystem, it all just moves slower. So Caserta can help make sure we understand that technology side, that stack you already have, the MarTech stack, and finding a vendor that fits nicely in the middle there that kind of meets everyone's needs.
All right, excellent. Well, Aileen, thank you so much for today's presentation. And thank you everyone for attending. And I'll send out the recording shortly. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Remy. Have a good day.